Hi everyone. I just wanted to touch base again quickly in regards to the lockdown that's been forced upon the people at the Commission homes in North Melbourne and Flemington. Now, this lockdown has meant that 1,400 different households in these Commission homes and around about 3,000 people have been locked down involuntarily, pretty much making their house like a jail cell. 500 police on every floor circulating around to make sure these people do not leave their houses. People of the lowest socioeconomic positions in Melbourne. So you've got a lot of immigrants, refugees, you've got all kinds of races and religions, lots of Muslims here, lots of Asian immigrants, a lot of Sudanese as well. It for me is very concerning because it is the most vulnerable people. Now, just reading here the detention directions that we've come across. Now, these are directions and not laws. You have to remember that. The purpose of the directions is to address the public health risk of COVID-19. Now, if we read down, reason for the notice, you ordinarily reside at the detention location. They're calling it a detention. You'll be detained at the premises where you ordinarily reside for 14 days initial detention period because having regard to the medical device, the detention is reasonably necessary. You'll be detained for a further period of 10 days after this if you refuse to be tested for COVID-19 at the request of an officer. So they're saying 14 days initial quarantine, which is what people get in hotels and other places. They're going to do an extra 10 days, so 24 days. So basically, they're going to keep you there for 3.5 weeks because you decide not to do the COVID-19 test. This is coercion. This is nearly making the test mandatory for these people. And for me, that's disgusting. You're picking on the most vulnerable people. You haven't done this in Broadmeadows or Craigieburn or other areas, Bankstown, anywhere else around Australia where these outbreaks have happened. But here, in these commission homes where there's only been 30 tests that have come through as positive, and funnily enough, a few days after 10,000 people refuse to do the test, you're locking down 3,000 people and forcing them to have the test or stay in lockdown for 24 days. That to me is not right and it's not fair. Now, Dan Andrews on the 20th of June announced here that they would offer people money. And again, this is coercion. We're announcing a $1,500 payment for those who have confirmed case or close contact and can't rely on sick leave. So I'm asking, is Dan Andrews and his team paying $1,500 for all 1,400 different homes that are affected by this? Because if they are, that's $2.1 million that they need to get out of their pockets right now. And if that's not coercion to make these lower socioeconomic people do these tests, which they do not have to do by law because only 30 people have been found to be sick. And if you're healthy, why would you be getting a COVID-19 test unless it's to bump the numbers and set a precedent for this happening around all of Australia? So this is deeply concerning, and I feel like it's unlawful. It's against the law what's happening here. Now, if we look at our Human Rights Act, and I bring that up now, liberty and not to be subjected to arbitrary arrest or detention. The right to personal liberty requires that persons not be subject to arrest and detention except as provided for by law, and this is a directive, not law, provided the law itself and the manner of its execution are not arbitrary. The UN Human Rights Committee has made it clear that an arrest or detention may be permissible under domestic law, but may nevertheless still be arbitrary. Okay? The right arises in relation to all forms of detention, including criminal justice, and blah, 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 and or mental health or containment of contagious diseases. Domestic law should prescribe the grounds and procedures for arrest and detention. An arrest or detention provided by domestic law may nevertheless be contrary to Article 9 if it's arbitrary. May result from a law which is vague or allows for the exercise of powers in broad circumstances that are not sufficiently defined. An arrest or detention may be arbitrary if it is not reasonable and necessary in all circumstances. For example, to prevent flight, interference with evidence, or occurrence of crime. Why can't these people go out and exercise in a ground area where it's cordoned off, where they can go outside and do laps of their building? Why are they being stuck in their rooms and forced into these tests and getting given money to do them as well? Why is this happening in this way? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. It goes against everything that's in the Human Rights Charter. And those people that are saying these people deserve it and they're dirty and they're disgusting, you need to wake up and think, because this is setting a precedence for the rest of Australia.